A new season of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated. It is season 5, the first one of 2026, and we're live from Spa tonight as we get this new season underway. The first of 2 endurance races this season, in a similar schedule to what we had last. An hour-long race will start the season, just as it will end the season in 8 weeks' time. I'm Ian O'Leary alongside Rhys Gardner for this broadcast on TrackSpotTV tonight. And Rhys, good evening. Good to be back with you again on FDL again. The Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship is getting underway again. An hour-long race here from Spa. It wouldn't be Spa without the threat of rain as well towards the end of the session as well, which is going to add to the excitement, which we're going to have a lot of here, I would imagine, in this first race of the season.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, we are going for the endurance format, so we are going for a 1-hour event here at Spa-Francorchamps to start off the season, and My big question coming into this new season is, can anyone topple Sebastian Eskandari from his spot at the top of the standings? He dominated the championship, effectively won it with a round to go last season. My interest is in whether everyone else over the off-season has been putting some extra effort in to catch up to him.
Well, absolutely. It was very, very difficult to catch him last season, that's for sure. See whether anybody can this time round. We'll just run through the schedule of the season, because, as I mentioned, over the course of the 8 weeks, we're going all over the world effectively, and to the new venue it is next week at Miami. We had the Formula Open there last week, which was in Super Formula cars. Race probably is going to be very different, or the 2 races rather, because it's a sprint event. Navarra will be next on round 3 before Mosport, bring us to the halfway point in the season. Monza is just on the other side of that, with Adelaide, another one of the new circuits, and another sprint race there. Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit is the penultimate round, and then Interlagos to round out the season. So that's our schedule. I say very varied, really, but unlike any other season we've done of this series, 2 street circuits in one season, Adelaide and Miami, one of them coming up next week as well. And it's always very difficult when there's a new track in iRacing, using it straight away. People, yes, may have had that experience last week at the Formula Open, but they won't have as much experience around Miami, certainly as they will around a circuit like this one tonight, where everybody's been driving Spa for a very long time. It's been iRacing for a very long time, but the same, I don't think, can be said for Miami next week.
No, certainly not. And the FDL contingent has had a bit of experience at Adelaide as well, playing host to a round of the Formula Ford recruitment series that rounded off 2025. So we're going to some new territories, breaking some new ground, but we're right here at one of the most used tracks in all of sim racing, I would imagine, here at Spa. And I think we're going to be seeing some very tight racing here. There's a lot of high-speed corners at this circuit. Eau Rouge and Radillon that you see on screen at the moment, obviously one of the most iconic corner sequences in all of motorsport, and for very good reason. I wonder how many are going to be trying to go side by side through there. And going through the rest of the lap, it's really a track of 2 halves. You've got those long straights from Stavelot to Blanchimont, and then from La Source all the way up to Le Combe. Then you've got the fast and flowing middle sector going downhill through the likes of Pouhon and Fagnier, all fantastic corners that provide some overtaking opportunities if you play your cards right.
Yeah, they certainly do. Just a couple more. Oh. Well, we're just having some technical problems behind the scenes, so we'll be back in a second with the end of qualifying and the start of this first race of the. Well, welcome back to Spa for this opening round of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship here this season, Season 5 of our championship. Apologies for the short break there, but we're back in time for the race as qualifying just draws to a close here from Spa. A couple of things to mention, by the way, that I haven't done already and probably should have. Of course, this being the first round, and this being the first round for some drivers in this series as a whole, there are some drivers who are classified who may well change. Indeed, Ryan Bell, who's in the series, I think for the first time, is a silver class driver, is top 5 overall. Jack Monroe top 10 overall, despite being a silver class driver. So they are silvers for today, but I'm just putting it out there that they might not be for the foreseeable, because they have done very well through this qualifying session. But let's see how they get on with the race. Apart from that, the usual top names are up towards the front. Kieran Potter, though, looks like he set the fastest lap time. Can't really see that's going to change. Although Phil Vella is still out there on the circuit, even though time has long elapsed and now indeed does elapse properly. Nice to see Vella return to the series, I think for one of the first times anyway, since he so narrowly missed out on that championship at the expense of Scott Bartine nearly a year ago it was now, in Season 2. He missed out by just 1 point on the run to the start-finish line on the very last lap of the last race. A dramatic finish that he's going to hope to put right this season, you would imagine, with his performances again. So the drivers will just be gridding up in a moment, and we'll have an hour-long race ready to go here. I'll just run through the grid, at least the front names, before we get underway. Kieran Potter, as I say, has taken pole in front of Campbell Adams, with Mark Healy and Sebastian Escondari, the reigning champion, will start from 4th place. It's Ryan Bell, as I mentioned, from 5th, for Brody McConkey, with Danny Davidson and Phil Vella on row 4. And then rounding out the top 10, it is Jack Monroe and Craig Edwards. Kane Ryder and Jet Saragi are on the next row, with Ryan Borg and Scott Bartine, previous champion, on row 7. It's Sam Mort next to Anthony Bate, who's also a silver driver, in 16th place. Jackson Mariana, Dan Ackland, Tom Donahue, Julio Alcinese round out the top 20. Madeline McGee is in 21st, in front of Tom McInnes, Jackie Chung and Chris Farrow share row 12, the first all-silver row, all the way back there. Alex Stevens and Angus Milne are next. Mark Heppel seems to have disappeared. Chris Little and Shane Maggie, Leif Hardy round out the top 30. Marcus Ganitska and Thomas Searle round out the 16 rows, with Sam Lighthowlers and Alexia Watson next. Miguel Costa Texera, the silver class champion from last time out, starts 35th for this race, ahead of Tristan McLaren, with Todd Parks and Nathan Verney on row 19. Jacob Banton, Tom Sims round out the top 40. Brendan Bonacci is the last driver on the grid, all the way down there. So yes, that is your grid. Should be 41 or so drivers in this race, which will be plenty, I think, to be getting on with. Always busy the first round of the season, but that's definitely going to be the case once more here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely will. Of course, this being an endurance round, we are going to require 2 pit stops or thereabouts from just about everybody. About 26 minutes of fuel you can get max in a pit stop, and the drivers start with 18.5 litres of fuel in the tank of the car, which should take them about 19 minutes into the race. So likely to see 2 stops from everyone, unless there is several laps under virtual safety car, which will allow drivers to save fuel and eat up some of the time that we have, so there's less laps to actually do under maximum pace. Plenty of ideas will be had by the drivers throughout the field, but I think that's all going to go out the water in about 15 seconds time, because the grid time is almost over and we're about to start that run into La Source at turn 1. It's a short run, but it's a very significant one.
It absolutely is. You want to get a good exit from there, especially because the run up the Kemmel Straight there after is very, very important. Still waiting for Mark Healy to get onto the grid here. over 3 minutes of gridding, and he's not on the grid. So he's at the back. So it's Thomas Hinds, who elects to start from the pit lane, and that might not be the worst idea, given he starts from the back. It's a new season of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, and we're underway here from Spa, racing down in towards turn number 1, and Kieran Potter leads the field away nicely ahead of Campbell Adams, who's next in line. Oh, and trouble in the background. A couple of spinners, 3 spinners in fact, through the opening corner. There's someone off out into the gravel as well. It's Giuliano Sinesi, Alex Stevens and Tom Donahue have all gone around. Tom McKinn's has lost quite a lot of place as well. Maybe he was the one in the gravel coming out of turn number 1 for the very first time. Up the hill they come and down the Kemmel Straight. Potter leading into turn 1 and out of it, but that's no good if you're going to get slipstream passed on the way towards Lecombe for the first time anyway. And there goes Campbell Adams straight into the lead of this race.
Lovely move from Campbell Adams to get ahead of him. And, Potter, Bell and McConkey rounding out your top 4 there. Danny Davison and Sebastian Eskandari running 5th and 6th for the moment. You see all of the smoke go up there through Bruxelles. And, well, it's basically a consequence of the front right lifting off the ground there. It's a downhill corner. See some mechanical black flags throughout the field as well. As it looks like Scott Bartynes had some problems there. Angus Milne and Sam Mort, both with too heavy damage to continue on for a reasonable amount of time. We've had a lot of drama here on the first lap, and I think there is more yet to come. But for the moment, Campbell Adams seems drama-free at the front.
Yeah, absolutely, and leading the field to the end of the middle sector for the first time. So what's the slipstream going to be like on the run down into the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap here? Is Potter going to be able to get through there, or are we not going to see that that move being made quite there? As you can see all the up and down the field, it's all happening. The top 16 have broken away. We just saw Madeline McGee at the very back of the train there. Last one of the 16 in this group, down in towards the bus stop, and no changes in the top 10. A little bit of side by side a bit further behind. That is a change between Jet Sarai and Kane Ryder, I think. Scott Bartynes in there as well, side by side out the corner, but all good coming out of the first lap of the day and the first lap of this season. 16 get away at the front of the field, and a clean start at least for these top names anyway. Move down the inside there on a car that you can't see, which is quite difficult. Jackson Riano, I think that was, making the move, and that will be always unnerving for him. It looks like that driver has indeed disconnected, perhaps. Scott Bartyne seems to be having trouble with the server at the moment. He's dropping down a very long way. As here the leaders come again, that is going to be straight back through for Kieran Potter, so the pole sitter returns to the front again.
That he does, and how much of a response are we going to see from Campbell Adams is the question. Doesn't look like any. It's max boost cars pretty much all running in line here at the front of the field, so this team will certainly want to work together in these early stages. Seeing Brodie McConkey's view of things, they're more than content to just stay in line over the course of this particular corner, and, well, I think you have to go all the way back to Phil Vella in 7th to see the first non-max boost driver, apart from Brodie McConkey here, who's a member of Proline Esports outfit there. Moving a bit further back to Ryan Borg. He tries a move at Pouon, but it doesn't quite stick. That corner can be an overtaking opportunity, but it's quite hard to pull it off there. Yeah,
it is. Not a very long run into that turn, and anywhere you've not got too much of a braking zone is always a difficult one to actually fire your way down the inside and through, and there are definitely some gaps appearing now in this sort of part of the field. You could say it's been reduced to a top 11 really at the front group, where there's no gaps more than a second, and these guys are rather split off from that at the end of these opening laps. 3 pit stops, by the way, at the end of the opening lap as well. Jackie Chung, Jacob Banton and Chris Farrow are all in pit lane at the moment. We've also had some shorter stops from others who likely might have taken a faster pair, but don't forget, as you mentioned earlier, there are going to be 2 stops in this race, and so it's not a disaster at all to have come in at the end of lap number 1. Not ideal, but they will get away with it.
Yeah, they will. It is a nice opportunity to get a little bit of extra fuel in the car if they have time, but it looks like for the most part, everyone who's come into the lane so far and come back out of it has taken those repairs. Donahue, Sinese, Angus Milne, all involved in that lap 1 turn 1 incident, and Chung and Jacob Bampton unfortunately didn't have much of a chance to get repairs done in a good amount of time. This is a replay then of what happened to our league administrator, moving a little bit to the left at the same time as everyone else was moving right to make their way into La Source. There's always going to be someone who comes off second best at that turn. Unfortunately, it appears Tom gathered a ton of damage there. And most of the field was able to find their way around that incident. And the Max Boost cars will continue throwing up that smoke as they pressure their way through Bruxelles and out through Jackie X onto the infield. A lot of gravel being thrown up as well. One thing's for sure, having had a season of this championship under my belt now, I can tell that the drivers will leave nothing on the table. They'll even start spilling over the edges if they have to.
Well, it's been, what, 3 laps and 3 changes for the lead so far as well. So, obviously the pole sitter, Kieran Potter has led a lap of this race. Campbell Adams has as well at the end of lap 1. But Ryan Bell has overtaken both of them now, the New Zealander, and leads this field. As I mentioned, silver class driver, but I'm not sure he's going to be a silver for very long. A new driver, so unsure as to where to classify him at the moment, as we were told by Tom before the broadcast here today. There goes Potter on Campbell Adams and straight through into Blanchemont. Another one of those overtaking chances towards the end of the lap, and indeed through Potter, so into second position, just in behind Ryan Bell, who might well get overtaken by Potter now for the race lead as well. 3 different leaders in 3 laps. I'm not sure that's going to extend to 4 as Potter looks to get that pole position back and that race lead back again.
Yeah, nice little group here in the top 3. Exit of La Source is one of the most important acceleration zones on the lap, and that's interesting to see. Pulling out of the slipstream a bit is Kieran Potter. He doesn't want to get the momentum too soon, because if you're right on the back of a car through this section, you'll have your aero completely messed up. But right there is an idea of how strong the slipstream is, and it's going to be 3 wide briefly for the lead of the race as Campbell Adams moves through the middle. And falling back into line there is Ryan Bell. Looks like these guys are going to be trading spots for a while yet.
Yes, they certainly are. It's one of the things with this type of racing as well, isn't it? If you get a circuit that's big enough, you can see this for almost the whole race. We don't have too many of those circuits this season, but, Navarra is a maybe that it will stay like this. Monza is a definitely. It will be even more like this. And the Nurburgring later in the season as well as Interlagos, the last 2 rounds, are probably a maybe as far as keeping cars close. But because these cars are so comparatively slow to some of the bigger Grand Prix circuits, I mean, around here we're doing 2-minute 9s. 2-minute 8.5 is the best lap currently, with a bit of slipstream for Ryan Bell. It means that the field can rather easily stay very close together, and still we've not got a gap more than a second in the top 9 now. I know this field continues to just get a little bit smaller at the front, but they're all being kept in by the slipstream here, and it doesn't really show many signs of ending.
No, it certainly doesn't. There are some packs starting to form, though, as Potter moves back past Adams for the lead. This top 4, and then Eskandari and Davison have fallen back a bit. They're trying to trade spots as well. Jack Munro battling for 7th place with Craig Edwards and Phil Vella coming into the chicane then, that group, and Edwards getting the move back in the Fusion Sim Racing number 28. Jack Munro, a bit of a driver that I'm not too familiar with, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in the midst of this field. Phil Vella having a very nice run as well, keeping himself in the top 10. There's been some great gains through the field as a result of the problems that were suffered on lap 1 by many. Jackson Rihanna up 6 positions to 10th place, just one of them, and Sam Lightowers, who started in 33rd, has made his way up to 16th.
Yeah, the biggest mover forward though is alongside him, is Miguel Costa Texeira, also up 17 places to 18th position. So good jobs from both of those to move through the field so efficiently early on here. But we always see this in FDL racing, to be honest. There's always somebody who has moved through the field by a very long way for whatever reason. They maybe didn't qualify so well or whatever. Thomas Hinn's only up 13 so far. I say only 13, made that 14 now, getting past Thomas Searle, but one of those drivers who's sort of lurking around the top 5 each season, really, of this championship. He just missed out on the top 5 last season. I think it was 4th the one before, but only 4 points away from finishing in 5th place and 5 points away from finishing in 4th place. And 30, something like that. Anyway, behind 3rd place. So it was all very close for 3rd last season. Thomas Hin's very much a part of that, but deciding not, or indeed not able to qualify here today, and is working his way well through the back of the field at the moment, through these first 10 minutes. Thomas Searle's also got a meatball, so I wonder whether Thomas Hins was maybe involved in that. But Searle is going to have to come into pit lane to make a slightly early stop. But as I mentioned, even you can get away with an unscheduled pit stop through here, really, because we have 2 pit stops to make anyway. Given the fixed setup, you can put a bit more fuel in than what you actually start with. And so it will all work out for even those who have got a meatball, and hence why we have only got, we haven't got any retirements. Everybody who's pitted so far, made an unscheduled pit stop already, have all come back out again and are still circulating.
Yeah, the only exception being Brendan Bonacci, who didn't take the start in the first place. Munro then moving up the inside of Vella, and Edwards is going to try and follow him there. I do have news from race control of a 10-second time penalty for Chris Little in car number 29. That was for him making contact with Alex Stevens, turn 1, lap 1. We did miss that particular incident. We were enamoured with the multi-car pile-up that we saw, but it happened at the same time, so race control already doing their jobs there. 3 wide for this position. Getting onto the grass there, Jackson Rihanna. Obviously, he's not afraid to... Oh, God! Oh, my goodness! Did you see that?
That is Vella and Munro who have got the most damage out of that. What was Rihanna doing there? I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, he wasn't involved in the end. It was a delayed bit of contact, wasn't it? Not entirely sure how that's happened, really. I think Phil Vella, to be honest, was expecting the car in the middle there just to back out of that, and so was trying to take that line that only allows 1 car down your inside, not 2. Amazingly, Vella's got away without a meatball, but Munro hasn't. He's going to have to come into the pit lane at the end of this one. I think Vella might decide to come into the pit lane pretty soon anyway. His car looked quite damaged.
Yeah, he's lost his front wing at least from that one, and I think he might be feeling a little dizzy getting flung about like he did. That was a strange bit of contact, and probably not the last time we're going to be seeing something like that with how close the racing is in this series. Well, in the end, it has benefited Jackson Rihanna, has moved up another couple of spots, and, Craig Edwards, just ahead of that battle, ended up getting away with it too. The contact happened just behind him. Meanwhile, it looks like one of the Proline cars stopped there. That's Texera, I think, that's gone around there. And Jack Munro will soon be passed by Thomas Hins. What happened to Texera?
Let's see. It was a contender for biggest mover forward, Texera, but he's just thrown wide into the gravel. And he maybe avoids the wall, in fact, but he has spun and lost quite a lot of position, so that will be the part that really matters, and had to wait for a bit of a gap, there it is, to get back going again as well. So last season's Silver Class champion, still in the Silver Class for a new season, but not having a great start. Vella does indeed decide to come into pit lane immediately. Look at this for Campbell Adams, very close in behind Potter, who leads this race, and here comes Bell. Again, they're getting away with this, another 3 wide moment. Ryan Bell took the lead in this in a similar scenario to this not so long ago. He's on the outside, he's not going to have it easy. Campbell Adams holds the inside and gets back to the lead again. Brody McConkey, by the way, is just hanging on to the back of these guys in 4th place. Behind them, Sebastian Eskandari having an uncharacteristically quiet start to the season in 5th place.
Yeah, it wasn't quite on the pace in qualifying either. I think his flow was a bit disrupted by some incidents that happened before we went live in qualifying. Our reigning champion has obviously tasted victory, and by quite some margin, but I think he's content to just see how things play out in this first round of his title defense. Keeping an eye on lap times, I mean, there's probably not much point looking at lap times in battles because the slipstream is so important, and lap times will obviously vary as a result of that. It's really just a case of waiting for the first round of pit stops, which incidentally are only about 4 minutes away. I think we're going to be seeing the first pit stops of the race in about 2 laps time.
Yeah, lap 9 we were told is the limit. normally correct is Tom, who gives us this information before each broadcast. And especially considering it's such a long circuit, you're not likely to be wrong by many laps because they're so long. Here they come into the bus stop chicane again, and Ryan Bell looked like he was thinking about that, going on the outside line in towards the bus stop chicane, but he didn't, and that might have been the right decision in the end. Campbell Adams just in front will be looking in his mirrors though religiously at the moment. Potter just backs away, maybe by design in fact, just to allow everybody to sort of sort it out, or those two at least, to sort it out at front, and then he can maybe pick up the pieces again in a moment. Here comes Bell though, just staying out of the slipstream on the run down the hill. I'm sure there'll be a battle over the top of the hill there in a moment. Here they come up the hill and over the top of Rouge and Radion. In fact, Potter's being swallowed up now by Sebastian Eskandari, and Brody McConkie will be on his way very shortly as well here. But Ryan Bell's going to take the overall race lead by the looks of things here. Eskandari doesn't know where to go. He's weaving, trying to half defend and half make this pass. And Potter does indeed lose those positions, down to 5th now for the pole sitter.
Yeah, well, I think probably fortuitously timed fall down the order, because now he has the opportunity to slipstream off more cars, and he might be able to gain some of that time back if he plays his cards right through the pit cycle. But one thing that we haven't talked about yet is the nature of pit entry here at Spa. It's quite a difficult pit entrance, and there's a lot of potential for miscommunication between drivers staying on track and drivers going into pit lane. You really have to slow up at the first turn of the chicane, the right-hander, to even stand a chance of getting into pit lane. I wonder how many incidents we're going to see as a result of that.
Yeah, we will keep an eye on it. We've still got a lot of stops to come in this first time round. I count 26 not having stopped yet. That's quite significant. We're going to see a lot of those in the next few minutes. I suppose it makes sense as well to run as long as you can before we get to those first round of stops, and maybe people will just open things out a little bit for the second stops, which will be a little bit later on in the day. Got slightly longer stints here because it is an hour-long race, as we've mentioned. The first of 2 this season. Interlagos, the last round, will also be an hour-long endurance. As another lap is complete at the front. Ryan Bell still leads in front of Campbell Adams, Sebastian Eskandari, Brody McConkie, Kieran Potter, and Danny Davidson's here now as well. 2.5 seconds back to Jackson Rihanna, who is, I think, being undone by his qualifying already this season. Has the pace clearly to stay with these guys, but didn't have the track position to begin with.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the eternal stories of Jackson Rihanna. You know, he has the potential, he has the pace and the talent to win on the regular in this series, but it never quite works out for him over the course of a full season. Maybe after this round is done, he'll have yet more chances. We'll have to wait and see. But, oh, that's quite the move to the inside there. Looks like McConkie and Eskandari getting into each other there. Proline versus Max Boost. And Eskandari wins the race into Lecombe for now. And this might be the start of Eskandari's charge forward. The first few laps, I think, were just him getting settled into the rhythm of the race. And now he'll be on the attack, catching up to Bell and Adams.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I think he is starting to grow into this race now, and he's got some. He's obviously got some work to do. He was down in 5th place at worst, I think, but he is starting to find his feet now. There's a very strange locking up, by the way, happening into Bruxelles, isn't there? It's happening almost every lap. I don't know whether something about this car has changed in the most recent update. This is the first time I've seen these cars since the update. I know it was a long time ago, but it was Christmas, and it's sort of a strange smoke that's coming up in Bruxelles as they're sort of trying to brake for the hairpin itself. It's just the unloaded right side just locking up for whatever reason and causing a lot of smoke. But either way, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Doesn't seem to be bothering them because it's happening almost every lap at the front. So not sure what it is, but it doesn't seem to be bothering these guys at all. They should be into the pit lane this time round then, as Campbell Adams just has to half defend from Ryan Bell there. Is he going to lead them all in pit lane, or is anybody going to carry on? We're not expecting anybody to continue, and indeed they don't. So here we go, 6 into pit lane, almost a tail.
Yep, big accordion effect, and now it's a battle of the virtual pit crews. How much fuel are they going to take? Maybe you want to take a bit less fuel at the first pit stop to have a lighter car in the second stint, or go for fuel mileage. Fill it up to the max it can, and that's the race leader that's overshot his pit box, I think.
Yeah, Adams definitely overshot his pit box. He's going to be last in the group if he's not careful. There's also a close race for third there coming out, but Ryan Bell gets out in front of Sebastian Eskandari. Then it's Brodie McConkey and Danny Davison. Campbell Adams is next, who is missed out by a long way here. One of them's missing. Who is it still down in pit lane? I'm trying to identify at the moment, to be honest, and I can't for the time being. But anyway, it's 5 at the front, and Campbell Adams cycling to the back because of the overshooting of his box there. There's another view of a bit further down coming into pit lane here. It's a very tight pit entry so far. I'm not sure we've really touched on it yet, but very, very tight pit entry here. Narrow entry road. Thankfully, nobody got stuck there blocking the whole field, because that has happened in the past.
Yeah, certainly has. It's probably happened in a couple of races that I've done as well. It's one of those things about Spa that you just can't avoid. So now, first pit stop complete, and Sebastian Eskandari has moved to the front of the field, and looks like his pit stop was around about the same as what we've seen from everyone else. Danny Davison with the shortest pit stop of our top group at only 5 seconds, but there's only really a second covering everyone's pit stop times. So it looks like everyone's gone for roughly the same strategy for the second stint of the race. Now it's just a question of when they decide to come in for the second pit stop. There is a bit of a window for that from about lap 18 to lap 21. So now it's going to be a question of who decides to pit early and try and go for an undercut, or maybe try and extend their mileage a bit here.
Yeah, apart from Kieran Potter, who's the one who's missing here and is continuing with trouble now. 17.4 seconds in the box that time round. Almost suggests to me that he took tyres accidentally, but maybe that's not the case.
He's slow.
And he is slow as well, yeah. He had a slowdown penalty almost immediately as he came out of the pit lane there, and that has obviously had to be served, and that's dropped him even further away. And now he's outside the top 30 completely, 34 to be specific. So what has gone on there for Kieran Potter? Not entirely sure, to be honest, but coming towards the end of 10 laps, we'll get those connection troubles sorted for you, by the way, in just a moment. But yeah, very interesting that he's lost so much time there. One of the gainers, though, out of that, as he so often seems to be, is Sebastian Eskandari, who's now battling with Ryan Bell for the lead. Bell still leading, although Eskandari has just got past him, in fact, for that race lead at the moment. He always seems to be there or thereabouts, just Sebastian Eskandari, especially when the sort of pit strategy is working itself out, as it just has done there.
Yeah, indeed. I wouldn't expect Eskandari to be under much threat from anyone outside of Ryan Bell now at this point. Once Eskandari gets on a rhythm, there's barely any catching him. I did have a look back to see what Potter did, and you're right, Ewan, he did take tyres at the pit stop, and that's not an ideal mistake to make. It does cost you quite a bit of time, but his whole lap around before he had to come back into service penalty, he was slow. He was going off the circuit to let drivers by. He was taking unconventional lines. I think there might be something more to his issues that we didn't see from our end. Yeah,
perhaps there may have been. It's a very easy mistake to make, by the way, accidentally taking tyres. Not sure what the default is, or whether there's any way to change it, but you can very easily just not really check the tyre sort of box, if you like, and because you don't need to take them, you don't really think about them, but you do need to remember to uncheck them throughout these races, because tyres are not taken unless it is for a change of compound, which we are again going to be wondering about a little bit later on, as far as wet tyres are concerned. We're hearing that, or we were hearing before the race, that the final 13 minutes of the race, spotty rain was expected, and Tom said it was going to be similar to Snetterton the recruitment race, I'm presuming he means, in that sprint race where there was sort of slick versus wet tyre choices over the course of that race. It was a very exciting race as well. Not sure really there was a best decision. It was just about how you coped with it, and maybe that's what the final quarter of this race is going to be like.
Yeah, if it's anything like Snetterton was, I'm certainly going to be hyped for it. While we are TrackSpot Radio for the moment, I am going to point out that Eskandari and Bell have continued to fight for the lead. They've been swapping back and forth over the course of the last few laps, and Danny Davison has managed to catch up to them. So we're going to be seeing a three-way fight for the lead very shortly. And Campbell Adams is still holding on in fourth, but not by much. We'll need to keep an eye out for him going forward. Brodie McConkey and Jackson Rihanna, two of the, I guess you could call them more of outsiders to the championship lead, are still hanging on in 5th and 6th for the moment. Fastest lap of the race currently sits at 2:08.4, which is what Phil Vella just set a lap or two ago. And Scott Bartine has set a 2:07, but it hasn't officially counted because, well, if anyone's familiar with Spa on iRacing, you'll know that off-tracks are very easy to get around here, and so it wasn't technically a valid lap.
Yeah, although still not as difficult as it used to be, which is, or as easy as it used to be, rather, to pick up those off-tracks. So that's an unusual part of it, but yes, that is still very much the case. No fastest lap points in this series as a general rule. Sorry, there is normally. I'm not sure whether the point system is going to change for this season or not, but has been the case in the past. Obviously, a pole sitter also gets a point, so Kieran Potter already has a head start over the rest, but unfortunately he's down in pit lane and has been for 3.5 minutes now, so our pole sitter seems to have had some sort of problem in the pit stops, first of all, accidentally taking tyres, and then also on the outlap having trouble as well, and it's a shame to lose one of that front six because a nice battle was developing between those six at the very front of the field. At the moment, Campbell Adams and Brodie McConkey have also lost the group. Eskandari is with Ryan Bell, as we know, but Danny Davison has joined them. It's now 3 for the lead, but Adams and McConkey are not that far away. Neither are some of the rest of the field as well, so it's still relatively close, just not the big slipstreaming train like it was earlier.
Yeah, well, if you want a slipstream train, you'd probably want to look from 23rd down to about 30th. Tom Donoghue leading the train that goes back to Mark Healy, Kane Ryder, Jet Saragi, Todd Parks, and Leith Hardy. It looks to me like Healy is battling with Kane Ryder at the moment and having some technical problems of his own, briefly disappearing off the circuit. Todd Parks and Jet Saragi just trading spots as well. Need to keep a close eye out for Jack Munro, Kane Ryder, Mark Healy, and Jet Saragi. They are all down double digits in terms of position. They lost out quite hard in that opening stint, but maybe the second stint, if there is a virtual safety car, that would certainly help them too.
Absolutely. Not seen one of those just yet, but you never know when they're going to arrive. I've already mentioned the earlier penalty for Chris Little, by the way, in the pit lane, in the stewards room rather, but he's got another one as well. So 10 seconds of time penalty twice now, one for an incident with Alex Stevens and one with Angus Milne. And Jackie Chung has got a 5-second penalty for a minor incident with Julian Sonese as well. Those all coming on lap 1, by the way. Race Control still looking at the opening laps of this race, but thankfully for them, not too much in the way of incidents have been happening in the meantime. We're back on the racetrack then, back in the server, and things look okay. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. That's tempting fate, isn't it? But anyway, we're coming up towards the halfway stage in this race now, and Ryan Bell does still lead. It's Sebastian Eskandari in second, and Danny Davison, who's now in this group for good, and Campbell Adams, who's now hanging out at the back of the group. Here comes Eskandari, switching to the outside line, and it hasn't taken too long for the reigning champion to get to leading a lap in this race. He's just edging Ryan Bell off at the side of the road there, just to try and give Davison slipstream, but that's good fight there from Bell, good straight line speed, and he does hold on to the lead somewhat surprisingly.
Yeah, Eskandari having to switch back to the racing line to try and get the maximum momentum through the corner. But for the moment, it would appear that Bell has the edge at the moment. Still 30 minutes remaining in the race. We're about half a minute away from reaching the halfway point of this event, and it's still unclear exactly which of these drivers is going to come out on top. Ryan Bell almost fighting alone for the moment. The only Proline car in this top group, the rest of them being max boost, down to Brodie McConkey running in 5th, who's the next of the Proline esports drivers, and Jackson Rihanna driving for Everything Simulated Racing in that bright yellow machine you see in the background of some shots. For now, Eskandari picks up the slipstream again from Ryan Bell, and his next overtaking opportunity will be that famous chicane, which effectively is a double hairpin on this current configuration of the track. It can be a difficult job to make a pass, let alone defend a pass here, but round the outside of Blanchimont, he's going to try it, and it looks like he'll be ahead at the braking zone.
Oh, just about, but Bell again not giving up here. Oh, outside line, the bus stop though is not going to work, and Sebastian Eskandari does indeed lead this race now as they officially cross the halfway mark. 14 laps complete. Surely that means this race is going to be 28 laps in length, but we'll wait and see on that front. In behind, Davison and Adams were side by side there for a brief moment. Down the hill they come, and I can't imagine, to be honest, that Eskandari is going to keep this lead too long, because the three are queuing up very, very close in behind him, and Bell seems to have some very good straight line speed somehow. I mean, that's probably all down to the exit that he's getting out of turn 1 and then up the hill here as well. Here comes Davison, maybe to try and make it 3 wide with his teammate, but Bell gets in front and he switches the other side of the road. Smart driving there from Bell to hold off both teammates here. He blocks Davison's path. Eskandari therefore has to go around the outside, and he can't do that. That was aggressive driving from Ryan Bell, but smart driving as well, which allowed him to keep the lead.
Yeah, he moved across the track at the exact same time, pretty much shut the door for everybody involved outside of himself. And, well, if he can finish the race in this top group, I think that's going to be a good opening stanza to his season. He's come here ready to fight, and well, he's got Eskandari, Davison and Adams to contend with here. 3 incredibly competitive drivers who, you know, would be top of the roost, really, in any series that they enter.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're already starting to get an idea of where they're going to be in the championship this season as well, with us in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship. I mean, a newcomer to the series, Ryan Bell, doing very, very well, and I can't see him staying in silver for very long, to be honest with you, given the performance he's putting in at the moment. Generally, we have silver class drivers who are a little bit further down the field, and to be fair, the top names from the opening rounds of the previous season were also put up into the gold class, likes of Ryan Borg and so on, who I believe is here today. Yeah, he is in 8th place at the moment, doing okay, under the radar definitely, but a top 10, and there you go, another formerly silver class driver doing well inside the top 10. I'd imagine the same is going to be for Bell at the end of this race, or perhaps the next one as well, but we'll wait and see on that front. Let race control decide that in the week as they come out of turn number 1 again and surely begin another fight here. Ryan Bell leading them down the hill in towards Rouge and Radion for another time, and Eskandari almost too close there. He's actually got alongside. Oh dear! And he's not getting much space. He's on the grass indeed from Bell. These two now starting to just get a little bit more aggressive with one another, nearly making more contact there as they come down the straight. Look at this from Bell down the middle of the road. He's still holding on, still fighting, but he can't stay in front of Sebastian Eskandari this time around. And finally, the reigning champion is in the lead again. They're getting ever more aggressive with one another, though.
Yeah, they are. That's the closest I've seen them there. Millimeters away from banging wheels at VMAX down the Kimmel Straight. Now Campbell Adams sees Ryan Bell filling his view as Eskandari skips away a little here in the middle sector. These being wings and slicks open wheelers, you don't want to run too close to the car behind, otherwise that's going to happen, what you saw just there. A bit of understeer for Campbell Adams, the air running over his front wing being disturbed by how close he is to Ryan Bell at the moment. It's when they get to those straights, though, that you want to be as close as possible to the car in front. This is Stavelot and Paul Frere curve flat out through here in these Super Formula Lights. Got to be careful not to jump into the gravel on the exit there. But now, pick up the slipstream. It doesn't look like Adams is too keen on staying in that slipstream the whole way, though. He's probably thinking the Kemmel Straight is the better place to do it.
Or indeed, best not to get involved at all, looking at what's happening. Maybe that's what he's decided. We'll see as they come down the straight. To be fair, that's not what his thought process was earlier, so unless he's changed his mind in the last 2 laps, then I can imagine he is just hanging back for the Kemmel Straight as they come across the line here. The 3 of them cover by about half a second, probably less, as they start another lap. And Escudero feeling the need to defend into turn 1. That is unusual, and maybe that's not the worst idea, because Campbell Adams might be able to get something out of this. But Bell has got a late apex and a good run down the hill here, and we'll see where he gets to at the end of the Kemmel Straight. I suppose, I reckon it's probably going to be the lead. Here comes Campbell Adams though in the slipstream. He's probably closer to Bell at the moment, who hasn't got the best run now as they get to the Kemmel Straight itself. It's going to be 3 wide, and he made sure there not to get himself boxed in, because that very easily could have happened. Eskandari stays pinned to the right hand side of the road, trying to stay out of the way, and he has done. What about Adams and Bell though? Who's going to lead this field? Out of Lecombe, it's going to be Bell. He was aggressive there. He didn't give much space to Adams to stick his nose down the inside through the second part of Lecombe there, but he's not, I suppose, he doesn't need to do that. If he's clear, then he can take the apex, and he does. He takes the lead of this race in front of the 2 Max Boost cars.
And flicking the tail out while he was doing it as well. I thought for sure he was going to go to an unarrestable slide, but evidently Bell is quite confident in his car at the moment, swaying about a little bit through Pouhon, but keeping it nice and stable for the moment. Seeing a scheduled pit stop happening further back for Thomas Searle. Remember, we already saw him in the pits at one point. It looks like that was a drive-through for Thomas Searle there. So a difficult race for the number 50 is just continuing to be a sort of a middling performance in this first round of the season. Hopefully, future rounds bring more luck for Thomas. But Sam Lighthour as well has had a problem. He's towed back to pit lane, visiting the pits twice. Not entirely sure what's going on for the number 20, but couldn't have been good.
No, and it's not going to be in the running for the biggest mover forward either. That will definitely go to Thomas Hinds now, who's up 22 places so far, and there's probably a few more on the cards before the end, although there is a big gap to Madeline McGee there of 10 seconds between 13th and 14th. That could be difficult to cross, even with more than 20 minutes remaining, which we still do in the one race evenings, by the way, coming up over the next few weeks. This race will be only 8 minutes from its conclusion, but we go on for another 15 minutes here in the first and the last rounds this season at Spa and Interlagos. So a lot to happen here as Campbell Adams comes through on Bell. That's going to be pretty easy. But what about... Eskandari switches to the other side of the road. Bell wouldn't have been expecting that. And Eskandari's going to really get squeezed there, but he's going to have the line there that he wants into the corner. And yes, they do work it out between the 2 of them, the Max Boost drivers. Campbell Adams able to sort of get in the way of Bell there almost. And Eskandari able to get to the lead. Max Booster 1 and 2, and I wonder whether that's going to help them keep the lead from now in a real chop and change race that we've seen so far, with nobody really taking control of it yet.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing this swapping around for the majority of the race, in fact, and if the pit stops are as close as they were for the first stop, we're going to be seeing drivers, I think, just biding their time until the final lap. You know, at a track where the slipstream is so strong, yeah, sure, you can make moves and you know, fling yourself past your competitors, but if the race still has, 10 or so laps remaining, then that's just 10 more laps for them to try and get back past you. You want to ideally make the move as late as possible and make it stick so they don't have a chance to fight back.
Absolutely. Into the Blanchimont section they come here, and McConkey and Rihanna, by the way, have been working away in the background here to try and catch up to the front 4, and they are getting quite close now. Final pit window is supposed to open on this lap and go for the next 3, as Bell wants to disrupt the Max Boost 1-2, and this is where it's going to get difficult now, because Max Boost effectively are going to be able to just get side by side and sort of box him in wherever they can, and I think Davison has foreseen that, and he's coming to the pit lane. But if Bell can get in amongst them, at least slow them down, then that will definitely help Davison. Not that that's Bell's job, of course. In towards turn 1, again outside for Bell, and if they make mistakes there, like Eskandari just did, then it's going to be difficult for Max Boost to hold 1 and 2 here. How easy is it going to be for them to actually keep control of this race, because it's been a race of lack of control so far. Through Rouge, side by side. Bell round the outside gets the pass done. Spectacular. And he's going to get through on Eskandari here as well with the momentum. Unless Campbell Adams can recover some of his own momentum here with a double slipstream. I'm not sure he can. And side by side for the lead, it's going to be Bell versus Eskandari, each for themselves. They're squeezing one another into Lecom. Oh, and Eskandari returns the favour. Bell did that earlier in the race, if you remember. And Eskandari holds on to the lead in exactly the same fashion.
Brave move from Ryan Bell. Going through Eau Rouge side by side, certainly possible in these cars. They had the downforce and the grip and the comparative lack of straight line speed to be able to do that. But goodness me, committing to it like he did, I certainly wouldn't have been able to do that. And I don't think many of us would have. But in the end, keeping it clean and making sure he didn't make contact with anyone else, he's managed to keep himself in a very strong second place. And this puts him in prime position to take advantage after the next round of pit stops. He only has 2 other drivers really to worry about, at least in the short term, but looking back a bit further, I see that Rihanna and McConkey appear to have been working together to catch up to these guys. They're not far behind.
Yeah, they absolutely have been working together here, and it's paid off at the moment because they are less than a second behind, although they're going to just lose that again as they come towards Blanchimont this time around. Not ideal particularly. Davison, by the way, is out in 12th place. He's on his own, so that's probably for the best, really, for Davison. He needed to be on his own to put in some good laps here. Eskandari feels the need to defend into the bus stop here. Is anybody coming in? No. They're going to stay out and maybe only staying out for 1 or 2 more attempts before they end up running out of fuel here very soon. So they'll have to pit before then. Meantime, into turn 1. Bell with a surprise attack. You'd think you'd wait for the Kemmel straight, and Bell maybe should have done there because he's not completed the pass in one go. It's going to be side by side through Eau Rouge and Radion, and that's surely going to allow Campbell Adams to lead by the end of the Kemmel straight. But let's see here. Side by side they come through the Eau Rouge and Radion section. And Adams is going to have the best run here by a long, long way. Here he comes, looks to the left, looks to the right. Where's the gap going to appear is what he'll be wondering at the moment. It'll be on the left-hand side, safer to go with his teammate there on the left-hand side in towards Lecom. Here he comes. No, he backs out. And Rihanna there as well. Meantime, Bell tries to hold on from Eskandari. Can he get that lead? He's off! He's off! Was there contact there? Not sure, but he's not spun round. He's only gone to the back of the group.
Oh, there. That was, I think, finally the powder keg going off there. It looks like there wasn't contact, but Bell was trying to hold it around the outside of Eskandari at the left-hander, and unfortunately he just didn't have the grip to pay the debt, so to speak. So now back to what is effectively 5th place. That's granted a free position to Brodie McConkey and Jackson Rihanna. It also means that there's yet more drivers who can take victory away from whoever ends up coming up on top in the end. Don't forget, we still need to consider Danny Davison in all of this. He pitted early. Will that benefit him? Also worth pointing out, outside of this group, Thomas Hins has been an absolute mammoth charge through this field. He recently passed Marcus Konietzka for 15th place. That is 25 places gained for Thomas Hins over the course of this.
Absolutely. A brilliant drive, although it's still puzzling as to why he started from the pit lane, didn't qualify, but either way, he's recovered rather nicely, and you'd imagine with a better qualifying result and
leader in
as the leader comes in here, Eskandari, better qualifying and races similar to this, he'll be challenging for that top 5 in the championship again. Eskandari into the pit lane though, as you say, from the lead of this race. It's lap 20, so the others should have another lap to go here, but are they going to work together in a way they probably should do? I mean, Campbell Adams is surely going to try and slow them down, so maybe it would be better for Rihanna to try and get past here, down the Kemmel Straight and try and lead this field through without too many problems. Let's see. Over the top of the hill they go. Rihanna is going to go for this, and I think that is the right decision here for him to make. Can he get clear, though, into Lecom here? He can. and Adams not able to slow them down. I think that would have been the plan for them, but he's not been able to do that. Davison, meantime, gets close to Eskandari, so he's not lost the leading group. At least he's with Eskandari, who was leading anyway.
Yeah, I think he'll be right with all of these guys on screen when the pit cycle equals out. Eskandari's pit stop was almost a second faster than Davison's, though, and considering that Davison is about 0.8 of a second behind Eskandari, if Davison had had a slightly quicker stop, he might well have been in front of our reigning champion. But that's all much of a muchness in the end. We're just going to have to play with what we've got at the moment. Jackson Rihanna enjoying his moment in the sun here and skipping away a little bit from Adams, McConkey and Bell, and I think surely they'll have to come into the pits this time around. Technical issue though for Jackson Rihanna. We have seen his internet be a little bit patchy sometimes, so that's nothing new. But yeah, lap 21, this is about as far as they can get, having pitted at the end of lap 9. So we're going to be seeing this lead battle work itself out very shortly.
We are. And that's why Bell is going for the slightly unorthodox pass through Blanchimont here, I think, because they know they're coming into pit lane. And considering he's got the... oh no, he's going to back out, I guess, realising that they're not going to get in pit line if they're side-by-side. So they do need to get that sorted out. And they can carry on. Well, Campbell Adams can anyway. The others come into pit lane. So let's hope Adams has got the fuel for one more lap here. That is one further than we were expecting, but he must have been fuel saving behind that Eskandari and Ryan Bell battle for quite a long time.
Yeah, good opportunity to extend the mileage a little bit, but he falls into a bit of a disadvantage here, does Campbell Adams. He's now all on his own. He doesn't have anyone ahead of him to slipstream, so that may cost him a few tenths, and that'll balloon into potentially some further losses of time when it comes to the pit stop. So Rihanna comes out of pit lane, and it looks to me like Sebastian Eskandari has not been able to vault back ahead of him. Rihanna has played this very well. He's actually managed to grab himself a 4.6 second pit stop, which is even faster than what Eskandari could manage.
Well, I think he's going to lose this position fairly quickly, but it is impressive that he's managed to get to the front like that, as Eskandari does indeed make the pass down the left-hand side here quite nicely. And comes through. So it's Eskandari in front of Jackson Rihanna, then Denny Davison, Brodie McConkey, Ryan Bell. They're all still in the group, but that's the order, and they've only got 13 minutes to sort this one out. So pit stops are complete for these guys. Campbell Adams will slot somewhere in with these guys in a moment when he also makes his final pit stop, but they're all together and there's no more pit stops to happen, so it's all to be played out on the racetrack now.
The gap between our leaders sitting at about half a second at the moment. Danny Davison running in effective third, as we'll see Campbell Adams surely come into pit lane on this particular lap. But for the moment, I think they're all just settling back into the rhythm. Their cars will be slightly heavier than they were. They won't be able to carry as much speed through the corners. The cars won't be as responsive. They just need to wait a couple of laps, see where they're at, and then they can start getting the elbows out. Campbell Adams does indeed make his way into pit lane on this lap, but was it the in-lap that he needed to stay with this lead group?
That's the big question. As we get to 12 minutes to go, that should mean, by the way, 6 laps to go here as well. That would line up with the 28 we were expecting once we got to halfway. Look at the way Rihanna and Eskandari are just starting to extend an advantage though here, and maybe take this amongst themselves, this battle for the race win. Campbell Adams is not really with them either. He's going to be with the other group, but he's not going to be with the front two. He'll be third as he pops out, but it won't last because he's not got as good of a run as those on the racetrack have. There goes McConkey. Here comes Ryan Bell into Blanchimont, and he will not try and make the pass into Eau Rouge itself. These guys have got to work something out here, and especially Ryan Bell as well, who's at the back of this group now. On board we go with him. In the very distance you can see Jackson Rihanna getting through on Eskandari. These guys are going to be 4 wide if they're not careful. Boxed in there on our right hand side, Campbell Adams, and look at Ryan Bell. He goes to the outside. This is exactly what he needed. He goes from 6th place to 3rd in one go, and that is a big thanks to Brodie McConkey, who helped him out massively there. His Proline teammate, they're now 3rd and 4th chasing down the leading pair.
Yeah, very nicely executed from the Proline teammates there as they make their way to Bruxelles. And you know what, Ewan? I've just looked at the weather radar. We're going to be getting rain on like the next lap, and it's not going to be light. It's in the greens, which is a little bit more than what you'd expect from a light drizzle. I don't think there's going to be enough rain to justify coming back in for wet tyres, and there's certainly not enough time left in the race to think about that. But the drivers will have to be on their toes here. They'll be dealing with a little bit of moisture shortly.
Well, who is going to deal with that best? Because that was the one weakness I noted really through the Formula Ford season from Eskandari. It wasn't quite as sort of, obviously in dry conditions like this, sort of pushing 100% or as close to that as possible is, a very good idea, obviously. But in the rain and the sort of slightly damp weather, is that the best idea? Well, we'll find out what kind of driving is required through these final 10 minutes or so when the rain arrives, which indeed it looks like it is going to, pretty much guaranteed. It never is a guarantee, of course. We have had races in this series with 99% chance of rain when it never arrives. So you can never be sure until it's on the radar. But we are definitely going to be looking out for it, looking to the skies. These guys still not catching the leading two. Ryan Bell, Campbell Adams, Brodie McConkey, Danny Davison need to work together, but at the moment there is not really the working together required. Ryan Borg's in, so does Anthony Bate, Madeline McGee, Dan Ackland. Are they coming in for a third stop, sort of almost preempting rain here?
Yeah, it looks like that's what they're doing. They probably received word of the rain being on its way, and they are indeed switching to wet tyres. Ryan Borg, Anthony Bate, and Madeline McGee, they are on the wet tyres. I don't think that's the right decision, honestly. There's no way the track is going to be wet enough to justify that. Move almost made for Ryan Bell on Campbell Adams, as now we do see the rain coming down. Jackson Rihanna and Sebastian Eskandari now slithering across the track, and Adams is around in the background.
And he must have found the wall there. He must have found the wall, or at least he might have stopped on the racetrack before he got there. But and Rihanna's off. Rihanna's off as well, coming into Bruxelles. So this is going to be very, very difficult now. And there's another spinner there. I don't think it's one of the leaders. I don't know who it is at all, actually. But Eskandari leads. There's 4 laps to go at the end of this one. They're tiptoeing already. This rain is very, very heavy compared to what there was promised. Spotty rain was what was promised. This is proper rain here at Spa, but you can never predict the weather. Look at the lines these guys are having to take. Normally, I would say, with 4 laps to go, well, just brave it out. There's not long left. But actually, looking at these conditions, you'd say maybe those guys who pitted last lap have made the right call, and these guys have got to respond by pitting this lap. Extraordinary.
Yeah, I think that Milne, that Borg, McGee, and Bate, they have absolutely aced this. I fully take back what I said just a few minutes ago. Yeah, because it's like God filled up a bucket and just dumped it over this circuit. The track is sopping wet out of nowhere over the course of a single lap. It looks torrential.
Yeah, it might have stopped again, which, oh no, not really. I can't really tell what's coming from the sky or what's coming from the car in front. Anyway, Rihanna's in the wall! He's going to find the wall here if he's not careful! He's going backwards through the gravel, he's not quite into the fence. That was close. If we were at high speed in the dry, that he definitely would have found the wall from there, but he probably wouldn't have spun off like that either. These conditions are very, very difficult at the moment. Is anybody going to carry on dries and brave it out? It's not the longest pit lane in the world, and it's the opening round of the season, so you'd expect them to try it. This is going to be the slowest pit entry you've ever seen as you come into the bus stop chicane. Here we go. I mean, look how slow they'll have to go through here. Eskandari gets in to the lane, and everybody so far has come in. Ryan Borg is already back up to 8th again. Is he going to be leading here after this tyre change or not is the question. Eskandari is going to be out first pretty significantly in front of Ryan Bell. Here comes Ryan Borg though. He's up to 3rd place, not that far behind Ryan Bell even. What a masterclass from Borg, who went, I absolutely thought, too early as well. But it turns out he made absolutely the right choice.
Yeah, that's turned out to be drawing the longest straw of all for Ryan Borg, and getting used to the wet tyres at the front of this field is Ryan Bell there. Eskandari now leading by 3.9 seconds, and it looks to me like they're going to be spending the next couple of laps just twitching their way around this place. Angus Milne, I've noticed, with a mechanical black flag. That's been some big damage there for one of the drivers who could have been joining Ryan Borg there. Meanwhile, Madeline McGee has also nailed the pit cycle there, strapping those wet tyres on. She's made it way up to 6th, and Borg spins around, pushing a little bit too hard in these conditions. You still got to really baby the car around in on wet tyres.
And he's actually only lost a place to his teammate there, so he's got away with that. But even so, Campbell Adams has also found the wall somewhere, because he's got a meatball flag now. Angus Milne did a moment ago, and is serving that in the pit lane. Hardy and Costa Texera also with meatballs here. You've just got to stay on the racetrack the best you can, and that could be quite difficult here. We might actually lose a lap of this race because of the wet conditions, by the way, as Ryan Bell goes off the road. Eskandari not having any sort of similar problems, and Borg's off again. Borg's spinning again here through Pearl, and it's uncontrollable. Off the circuit, he's rolling back onto it again. He might lose his top 5 if he's not careful. Where's Madeline McGee? She'll come through screen in a moment. He's not quite on the scene quick enough, though, and Borg has got to just clean this out, because otherwise he's going to be in big trouble here. Ryan Bell, meantime, needs a pit stop. He has got a meatball as well. It's all happening at the end here, but for all of the contenders, apart from Sebastian Eskandari, they're spinning all over the place, and they're all having trouble. He leads now by 10 seconds.
Yeah, we are not going to see a clear winner here, and look at that, as looks like that's the number 6 of Bell bringing it into pit lane. See the right rear, it is poking out at a very odd angle, and no surprise to see that. Actually, I think that's Miguel Costa Texera, my apologies, that's jumped into pit lane. But I mean, who's actually going to last the distance here? 4 minutes left, and by my timing, we're having 2 laps to go or thereabouts. Sebastian Eskandari still out in front by a long way, but even he isn't immune to mistakes.
Well, absolutely. As you said, 2 laps to go now. Oh, and a spin just in the background there. Not sure who that might have been, but definitely a lap car. This is very busy. Thomas Hinds is up to 11th now as a result of all of this. Ahead of Scott Bartine. Tom Donoghue, who's also recovered from the back of the field after spinning on lap 1. Alex Stevens. Dan Ackland's going very slowly for whatever reason. Here comes Donoghue on Bartine in 2nd place in the group. And Donoghue gets through nicely into 12th place, and is looking to get past Hinds as well. That will be for a top 10 now, because Mark Hilly's come in again. I think he's already used his fast repair, so let's hope that's not what he requires here at the end of this lap into turn 1. Hinds defends nicely from Donoghue, goes a bit wide there, goes very wide through turn number 1, but only 2 laps to go here for groups like this to sort it out. This is one of the only battles really out there on the racetrack now, as everybody's just surviving these conditions.
Yeah, I mean, my in-sim info is telling me that the track is lightly wet, but that's clearly not the case. There's puddles everywhere from what I'm seeing. Another spin at the top of the hill there. Scott Bartine around, and this is certainly not the only driver having this kind of issue. It's where the compression happens when you start going up the hill. It's evidently too much for those wet tyres, and it's very easy for the rear end to let go.
Yeah, it absolutely is. A small spray and another battle coming down the hill here. Scott Bartine is not with the group he was earlier. That's Farrow going past him. And Thomas Hinds is dropping positions here as well. It's that group has just exploded, really. Only Donoghue and Stevens are anywhere near each other anymore. And they're indeed the only part of the group remaining. They're still battling for 10th. But Hinds has gone off somewhere, and so has Ackland, so has Bartine. So only 2 remaining, but Donoghue seems to be coping with these wet weather conditions very, very well indeed, and making his way up into the top 10. 9 places gainer where he qualified, yes, but remembering a spin on lap number 1, that's a very impressive recovery.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. That's Jackson Rihanna giving the position back to Ryan Bell. He ran a bit deep coming out of Stavolo and actually caught the gravel trap, so now he's still not quite clear for the podium. it would appear that Ryan Bell is committing to the end of the race, despite having that mechanical black flag. I believe you have 3 laps or so that you have to actually come in and take those repairs, otherwise you get disqualified. Potentially, Bell will be able to get away with that, but just another view of how slippery, slidey these conditions are. The drivers have spent pretty much this whole race maximizing track usage, going over the white lines, going over the curbs. You cannot touch them the moment the track gets some moisture on it. It's just too slippery.
Ryan Bell, by the way, carries on to the final lap despite having a meatball, and I've no idea why. Surely that's just going to give him a penalty, but maybe not. I don't know. It is within 3 laps of the end, so he's not going to get disqualified for carry on, I don't think, but he is something unusually staying out at the moment, trying to hold on for a podium. But at the end of it all, despite all the trials and tribulations of the day, it looks like it's going to be same old story for Sebastian Eskandari, who looks like he's going to go on and win this race all over again. Remarkable, really, considering everything that's happened so far today. Eskandari finished 3rd after a post-race penalty in the opening round of last season, and it only got better for him from there. If this is him at not such a strong day, especially when you look at qualifying in the early stages of the race, then everybody else has got to be very concerned indeed.
Yeah, for sure. It seems that the moment the rain came down, Eskandari just went into cruise mode, really. And the amount of time that he has gained in the last couple of laps alone, I said just before the gap was at 10 seconds. Now it's at 15, back to Brodie McConkey. So Eskandari, all he needs to do is find his way through Blanchimont, just tiptoe it. He can afford to give up some time if he needs to, for the sake of keeping the car on track. But he is clear and home free effectively for the lead of the race. Bell, meanwhile, has fallen back behind Rihanna and Borg, and that's going to be a change for 3rd. But it's time to give Eskandari his dues.
Absolutely. You could say he had the advantage of being first of everybody when the rain hit, but everybody else has had mistakes, and he hasn't. He wiggles over the line to win the opening round of Season 5 in the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship here from Spa here tonight. A dominant victory as far as the history books will be concerned, but you've got to remember everything that happened basically in the last 10 minutes there created the 17-second gap to Brodie McConkey, who gets in 2nd. Jackson Rihanna starts his season with a 3rd place finish. He started last season with a 36th place finish, so this is a much better start this time round because he came up short by 202 points to Eskandari last season, so he's going to have to improve even from here, but he's off to a decent start nevertheless.
Yeah, good drive. He got involved with the leaders at just the right time and was able to keep it on track more or less in the slithery conditions we see here. Crossing the line, the pro line teammates there. Brodie McConkey will find his way ultimately to a P2, and Ryan Borg up to P4. Don't forget that Borg pitted just before the rain came and got those wet tyres on. It turned out to be the wisest decision just about anyone's made this race.
Absolutely. Ryan Bell will be credited with the silver class victory, by the way, but these classifications of drivers are likely to change between now and the finish. Kane Ryder and Marcus Knitska are fighting for 17th at the moment, and they've both gone off in their fight. Ryder is dropping positions quicker, though, because Knitska's recovered, but a little bit of last lap action down there. Oh dear, and that is Kane Ryder. Only just getting back onto the circuit there through Blanchimont. Not sure what that's all about. Angus Milne gets through into the top 20 as well. Alexei Watson also does. And so, not a great last lap for Kane Ryder there, who finishes down in 21st. Don't forget, Kane Ryder won the first race of the season last season in Mexico. That was an hour-long race as well, though that had at least one safety car, maybe 2 from memory. No interruptions for us tonight, even with the bad weather conditions. Credit to all the drivers for getting through that without any such trouble. As the final drivers come up towards the line, that's Sam Morton, Jet Saragi, who were relatively close with one another, but no real position changes there, and that is that. Every driver has come across the line. And by the way, we got about 37 of the 39 that started this race to the end of that race, so not a bad attrition rate at all. As we have a look at the post-race results from tonight's opening round. here from Spa. We'll bring those up in a second to show that Sebastian Eskandari has won this race by nearly 17 seconds in the end. And we'll chat to him in a moment as well. Brodie McConkie and Jackson Rihanna too, who are also on the podium. Ryan Borg fourth. Ryan Bell ends up the silver class winner from tonight. But as I mentioned, it's perhaps going to change. That's just the gold class. So Vella is next, in fifth place in the gold class, with Madeline McGee, Tom Donoghue, Danny Davison all next in line as far as the overall is concerned. And rounding out the top 10 overall, Anthony Bate, who will appear second in the silver class results. Alex Stevens just outside the top 10, and then the biggest move of the day for Thomas Hinds, who it finishes 12th in the end, despite starting right at the back of the field. 28 places gained in the end for him there, so a very, very good start to the season as far as places gained are concerned. Not particularly race result, but I'm sure that'll be fine. Scott Bartine, Dan Ackland and Craig Edwards round out the top 15, with Tom McInnes 16th for Jack Monroe, Marcus Knitzer, Alexia Watson and Angus Milne round out the top 20. 21st for Kane Ryder, as we just saw there, with Shane McGee, Sam Moore, Jet Saragi, Chris Little and Julian Senesi, I think the last driver on the lead. Senesi was one lap down actually, with Campbell Adams, who dropped down late on there. Nathan Verney, Mark Hilly, who'll be disappointed with his first round of the season as well, and 30th place for Chris Farrow. 2 laps down for Jackie Chung, Todd Pox. Migo Costa Texera was 3 down with Leif Hardy and Tristan McLaren, the last of the point scorers. Thomas Sir won't score any points despite finishing, neither will Jacob Bampton. Sam Lighthouse and Kieran Potter never got to the start of... never got to the finish. Brendan Bonacci never got to the start of tonight's race. Let's have a chat then to Sebastian Eskandari, who's won here tonight in the opening round of the season. And Seb, welcome in. Congratulations on a win in the end that will go down in history as a gap of 17 seconds, but that doesn't really reflect the race fairly. How was the dry period of the race, first of all, where it seemed just nobody really had control over the front of the race, like, somebody is able to manage at almost every circuit. There didn't seem like much control at the front of the field today.
Yeah, hi guys, thanks for having me on tonight. Yeah, this track, just in any sort of conditions, just impossible to break away in. And we'd seen throughout the practices and even the official races earlier in the season that it's like a top 3 or 4 breakaway, and then the rest are all just fighting to catch back up. But luckily it was me and Danny together, and so we started to work together a little bit and we caught them. And then it was just like whoever's leading into turn 1 gets passed by after Eau Rouge, and then whoever's leading down the back straight gets passed into bus stop. It was just like that every lap. So I think I capitalised that on the most, and I was able to get in front at the end of the first stint and second stint, so that was pretty good.
How were you coping with the weather when it actually arrived? Because we were expecting quite light rain, really, based on what we were told pre-race, but it came down not for very long, but it was very heavy when it did come down. Was that a surprise to you, or were you expecting that sort of rain to fall?
I mean, I was sort of expecting it from Donington last season, but you never know what you're going to get with spotty rain. It's just so unpredictable. Like, one race it can be really light, nothing anywhere, and then another race it can just be the heaviest rain all around the track. And I think today I came in 1 lap too late, as well as Jackson, but it was just about keeping it on the track after that, and then we did, and came into the pits and got a good gap after that.
Well, congratulations on starting the new season with a win here tonight, Seb, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. I won't be able to make next week because of real life racing, but yeah, I wish everyone good luck.
Right, well, good luck with the real world racing as well, and we'll see you the week after. That's Sebastian Eskandari, the winner tonight from Spa in the opening round of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship this season. Obviously, you get a drop round in this series, so as far as that's concerned, it won't be too much of a problem. Brodie McConkie finishes in second place in the end and joins us now. Brodie, welcome in. Congrats on a second place finish for you tonight. Must say, of the front 6, which you were a part of there, coming towards the end of the second stint, you all came into the pit lane for a little bit of fuel there for what seemed at the time to be your final pit stop. Obviously, you all had to come in for wets in the end anyway. you were the most under the radar of that front six. Just how were you sort of navigating those that first 50 minutes or so before the rain came? Was it just a case for you of staying out of trouble and staying with the leaders?
Yeah, pretty much. I was pretty happy off the start. I don't know where I was, fourth or fifth. I was pretty happy just to stay there until late as possible. And then if you're about 6/10ths back, you stop getting a tow, which is really, really strange in these cars. It's really strong. So I made a couple of mistakes and dropped off, and ended up working with Rehana to catch back up after the first pit stop. And then, yeah, just everything unfolded when the rain came. Just missed the pit stop. I had a teammate say that everyone was spinning, but we're just going past the pinning tree then, so we were a lap late. But I think the rest of everyone in front of me was a lap late as well. So, yeah, it was a very interesting race.
How did you cope with the rain when it fell on that lap where you were still on dry tyres? Because we thought, to be honest, the guys pitting behind you had gone too early. In the end, they probably did make the right decision. How were those conditions initially, though? And then when you got onto the wets and suddenly found yourself in second place, basically?
It was just the rubber line was just torrential. Even on the slick tyre, if you're offline, it wasn't too bad. But obviously, you have to cross over that rubber line at some point. And then you're at crawling speed, and yeah, it's almost a 50-50 chance whether you spin. It doesn't take much to do it. And then even on the wet tyres, the same thing. You've obviously got a bit more pace on the wet just because of the grooves, but even over the rubber line, it's not much different to the slick on that part of the track. But honestly, I'm just glad to have a clean race for once. I had an awful last season, so and I know if we put clean races together, we can be fighting for wins and podiums. So I just want to keep this momentum forward.
Well, congrats on starting the season with a podium here tonight, Brody, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end as well.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. That's Brody McConkey, second tonight, in front of Jackson Rihanna, who finishes in third position. Gains 14 places to get there as well. Welcome in, Jackson. Good to have you with us. Last season, you started the season with a 36th place finish. The one before, 27th, despite finishing second in the championship on both those occasions. You must be very pleased to start this season in a better way.
Yeah, good evening, mate. Yeah, look, to be honest, after quali, I had the green eye shade on. I was thinking, oh, here we go again. We're going to have another shocking start to the season. Like, Spa's the type of track where if you're back there, it's just, it's really, really hard to get anywhere close without getting, raced constantly for position. But yeah, green eye shade worked. Had a little run in with a few guys at the start there. I'm not sure really what happened. I haven't had a chance to look back at it yet, but apologies to those who were involved. But yeah, look, it was good. Drove angry through the field, got to the lead, and then it started raining. So thumbs up the night. But yeah, look, as you said, good points, and finally a solid start to a FDL season.
How did you find the rain when it eventually arrived? Before that point, you were definitely in the conversation for the race win and ended up 35 seconds off the race win because the last 10 minutes were just weird. How did you find the rain?
It was diabolical. Like, just keeping the thing on the circuit was pretty tricky at stages. Like Seb, again, showed his talent tonight. He was just a freaky, kept his head down, really picked up the state of the track really, really quickly, where just felt like I was on ice skates those last two laps, just constantly trying to keep the thing on the track. I think I spun out maybe 3 or 4 times after it started raining, so that definitely didn't help the gap at all. But as soon as I guess I knew there were going to be points in it, just pull it back, take the points, and go on to next week. Unfortunate considering where we were before it started raining. As you said, race win was looking fairly likely there at the end if it wasn't going to be said. But yeah, either way, happy to take a third tonight.
Congratulations on that in this first round of the championship, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end as well.
Thanks for having me as always, guys.
Thanks very much. That's Jackson Rihanna, who finishes in third tonight to start off the new FDL season. Well, what a start to the season, Reese. Weather always a feature at Spa, is something like what I said at the start of the broadcast, and it turns out that was the case. I must say, some of the drivers might have been expecting that sort of brief, heavy downpour, but as Seb was just saying there, it's very unpredictable, the spotty rain setting, and we saw the definitely heavier side of that here tonight.
Oh yeah, certainly did. I was flummoxed to see just how heavy the rain ended up being, and how almost everybody had some kind of issue out there, even after getting the wet tyres on the cars. Well, we are going to be going to a potentially drier part of the world next week when we go to Miami for round 2, but hurricanes do tend to happen in that particular area. It's also the lightning strike capital of the United States, apparently, so you never know. Weather might play a part next week as well.
Yeah, I was going to say tropical, definitely. So you just never know what's going to happen in Miami. And that's where we'll be in 1 week's time. Of course, we'll be live same time, same place on TrackSpotTV with that broadcast. Very much hope you can join us for that. Big thanks to everyone who's joined us tonight. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside Rhys Gardner here on TrackSpotTV, bringing you the opening round of the Gripline Super Formula Lights Championship, supported by Everything Simulated. We'll be back, as I say, in 1 week's time from Miami. Until then, it's goodbye for now.